Howdy, theologians. Hello, Elizabeth.
Howdy.
How are you?
I'm pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting close to the big show, and I'm realizing how packed our schedule actually is. And
Did you pay attention to my sermon on Sunday?
I did. I was like, oh, I needed this because it's easy to fill that
chasing
calendar
after
up.
that happiness, eh?
Yeah.
Advent is already here.
More like chasing after my kids' happiness. Like making sure they get to do all the things.
Yeah.
So that's stressful.
That is it is stressful.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Well, we're quickly moving through Advent. We only have 2 Sundays left before Christmas Eve.
I know. So fun.
It is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, today, what are we talking about today?
We are talking about Incarnation. We're talking about actually the thing that we celebrate on Christmas Eve.
All right, then. The Incarnation. Little baby Jesus.
Little baby Jesus.
Roll the clip, Dexter.
You're tiny Jesus.
So much. I love it so much.
Fleece diapers with your tiny little fat balled up fist pawing.
He was a man. He had a beard.
Have you
the
ever seen
baby
this
version
movie?
The best. Do you hear me? I win the races and I get the money.
Ricky, finish the damn grace.
Finish the damn grace,
I like to
Ricky.
picture Jesus in a tuxedo T-shirt because it says like, "I want to be formal, but I'm here to party too." Because I like to party, so I like my Jesus to party.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want a fake fix. I just want the real thing. I don't want a fake fix.
So there was this like golden age of comedy. I don't know if you're aware of this. I don't know if you were into Will Ferrell when you were in high school or college. But
I like Will Ferrell.
Feel like there's this golden age where it was like Talladega Nights and Step Brothers. Superbad was up there. Did you watch any of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think, didn't it start with Anchorman?
Sure.
Yeah, so Anchorman, yes. I never actually watched Talladega Nights. I did watch Step Brothers.
One of my favorites.
And what was the other one you said? I can't remember.
Well, Superbad. Will Ferrell.
Oh, I love
Old
Superbad.
School. Oh my
Old
God.
School. All right. I watched it. That
It's
was my
great.
fave. I do love where he gets hit by that tranquilizer dart, though.
Yeah, definitely. At the birthday party, falls
Yeah.
into the pool in his robe.
Yes.
So Will Ferrell is like is he still a big deal?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He did
I
that
don't-
he did that thing with Ryan Reynolds last year, that Christmas movie, Spirited. And then he also did this more recent documentary with his friend who was a writer at SNL. Do you remember seeing the commercials for that?
Mm-mm.
So his friend is a trans woman, but Will Ferrell knew her when she still presented as a man
Before she transitioned. Yeah.
And so
They did a documentary about
a
it?
documentary about them driving around the country, talking to people about trans identity and
All right.
what it means to be a trans person in America today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I need to put it on my watch list. I think there was a time where Will Ferrell was maybe one of the biggest celebrities we had. There for maybe 3 or 4 years.
I mean, sure.
I think
he's funny. I think he's really funny.
I do too. His George W. Bush on SNL. So good. Who do you think the biggest celebrity is right now?
Oh, I don't know.
Taylor Swift.
Who? Just kidding.
She almost got me. Who?
I mean, yeah, maybe Beyonce. I don't know. I'm sure a sports person is really important and famous.
Some generic sports athlete.
Yeah, I mean,
Luka Doncic.
I think wasn't Michael Jackson the most recognized, or was it Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Was the most recognized global
Yes.
celebrity
Yeah.
ever. Yeah.
What makes someone a celebrity, you think?
I don't know. People really liking them, and then other people liking them, and then people thinking that you got to be cool. If you want to be cool, you got to like them.
I'm thinking about celebrities a lot in relation to the Incarnation, because I think there's this thing we're striving for like socially, society striving, like after this presentation, this how to be in the world, how to act in the world, and I was just
like
watching
what's the best, the right, the cool.
Yeah, the cool thing to do, the right thing to say, right? And I'm watching my boys grow up and become more aware of the world around them, and like they're drawn to the like mega celebrity. And my question is really like, why? Like, what is it about John Cena, which they've actually never seen a wrestling match with John Cena in it, but they know about John Cena because all their friends talk about John Cena, and like John Cena's really cool, and right. And you're like, what is it about that? Like, what is like becomes part of the, you know, the air we breathe and the waters we swim in that like just draws us to these individuals. And I imagine it's entertainment and all that and talent for sure. But there's also like this, like,
I don't think so. I actually don't think talent is a prerequisite. I mean, think of influencers. Like, they have no talent. They just
look at this Stanley mug.
I just mean, like, I actually don't think it has anything to do with talent, because there are tons of incredibly talented people who never become celebrities.
That's true.
And there are a ton of celebrities who actually have very basic talent levels.
Well,
I actually think I think it's really freaking good marketing. And I think then it's shared. Like, what makes a celebrity is when a lot of people know them. So how do a lot of people know them? There's like shared conversation or shared storytelling or shared experience of,
That's
right?
true.
I mean, your boys don't care about John Cena except for all of their friends talk about John
That's
Cena.
true.
And their friends probably talk about John Cena, and their friend or their parents. Like, so it's like, think of, you know, as a kid, you want to do, or you have a vested interest in believing or doing or being interested in what your parents do or say or are interested in, right? Because your parents provide support for you. So you want to do what you think will make you connected to them. And so as our kids get older, or as people look for connections with other people, we got to talk about the things that other people are talking about or watching or, you know, so that we have this like shared connection.
But I think that it becomes this sort of self-fulfilling prophecy where we then start seeking that same validation and that same recognition in our own lives, either overtly or covertly. We're drawn to recognition and validation.
Yeah. I mean, I think we like the idea of a lot of being known. And so what an amazing thing to have a lot of people know us.
Yeah.
And to feel like we're
not only know us, but like spend money on us.
Yeah.
Like,
and
spend
we're appreciated,
their own,
and we're like, we have this value.
Celebrated,
to your set,
right?
To your point, yeah.
So my big question is, in the age of celebrity, in the age of social media, I feel like there should be a drop every time we say social media. That's like dun 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 dun. Right?
Warning.
How does the Incarnation challenge? Where? That's not it, Dexter. How does the Incarnation challenge where worth and value come from? Do you think it does?
Yes, I think it does. I don't really go this way when I think of Incarnation, though, so I have to like pivot really fast. Yeah, I think ultimately it does challenge that, where worth and value come from. Because I actually think that it places value then in something that is pretty common.
Ordinary.
Yeah, and ordinary. And like it places value in something that we actually don't earn or that we haven't done anything to deserve.
We're just born.
We're just are.
We just exist.
We just are.
We're birthed.
And therefore the Incarnation makes that valuable.
Extremely valuable, I would say. That it, like, highlights what we talk about in relationship to like being a beloved child of God, being made in the imago Dei, like the image of God. Like, it is the sort of like tangible,
absolute like basic essence of what it means to be human.
Right.
Yeah.
It like injects infinite value into that.
Right. Into this very basic thing that we don't actually do anything about. We just are.
It's a lot like grace.
Oh, yeah.
How do you like to define incarnation then?
Well, I mean, there's the definition of incarnation formally, which is invested with flesh or a bodily nature.
Uh-huh.
So human, especially in particular, human form. And it comes from the Latin carne or flesh.
Carne asada.
Yeah, I always think of chili con carne.
I know, so do I. Makes me want
But
to
it's
go
really
get some
gross when
chips
you
and
actually,
dip.
but it's gross if you think about it as flesh. Like chili with flesh, gross.
Okay.
Chili with meat, yum.
Okay, go on. Yeah.
Anyway, I just think I think that as the definition of incarnation, that's fine, right? And so becoming the incarnation is something becoming incarnate, right? Becoming infleshed, if you will. But when we think from a Christian perspective, for us, the incarnation is the moment that God becomes flesh and dwells among us.
Right.
The moment of Jesus's birth, this idea that the eternal God, divine presence, an entity of whatever sort that God actually is, dwells somehow within a corporeal form. I mean, that is a bodily form.
Okay.
Tangible, substantive form.
Tactile, yes.
Yes. And is also human. I mean, that's the incarnation is God not just kind of putting on a flesh suit, but God becoming human.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's not a costume.
Right, exactly. So when I think of the incarnation, to me, I don't think so much about like celebrity, I guess, but that's interesting.
Well, it's not really that celebrity was really just an opportunity to try to assign value
right
to humanity, and celebrities like in some form or fashion represent sort of high value.
Yeah.
And like
yeah.
people we don't know, people that are overlooked, people that are on the margins, we assign low value to them.
And maybe even to ourselves. We
Right.
assign, it's easy
Absolutely.
to like,
So no, it's not like, ooh, let's debate whether Jesus was a celebrity or not. It's more about like we as embodied people, we exist in the world and we assign value to what it means to be human.
Right.
In a variety of ways. But culturally, we look at celebrities and assign some value to them for some reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And
no, I understand.
I would argue that the incarnation totally messes all that up because of what you said at the very beginning. It is simply by the act of God choosing to become human, not act human or wear a costume, right? But to become human, that totally blows that out of the water, because we have tiny baby Jesus that is that has no inherent power when Jesus is born. He's a baby.
Yeah.
Right. But God choosing to enter into the world in that way, I think totally disrupts the ways we organize or think about what it means to be valued as a human.
But I think the notion of celebrity is really interesting, and it does link to the Christ story as well, because celebrity essentially, it does place value on people, but it's like a social designation.
Yes.
And I think the social designation of Jesus becoming born as a baby, which just as a baby is like no power and no ability and no influence, right? Just born. But also like a baby event in a very particular time and place, and in a very particular culture and a very particular social stratus. Yes, absolutely.
Because
so like
Jesus isn't just born a baby. Jesus was born a poor baby to an unwed mother.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And essentially become.
Loosely. I mean, she was wed, but by that time, maybe. It's like, maybe.
Jesus was in the womb and an unwed mother. But then becomes a refugee.
Yeah. I mean,
right?
then, exactly. I mean, there's no power socially. There's, from the celebrity perspective, right? Conversation. There's a lot of social power that celebrities have and social influence. And Jesus actually was born into none of that and didn't have any power or influence politically, socially, financially. I mean,
Even Scripture talks about Nazareth. Like, does anything good ever come from Nazareth?
Yeah,
right?
like it's a very
forgotten place.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, one of the suburbs of Dallas. I won't say which one.
We should have an episode where we just rank the suburbs of Dallas.
Which one
as
of you
a suburban kid,
Nazareth, and which
I'm
one
a suburban
would be Bethlehem,
kid of Dallas.
and which one would be Jerusalem?
Jacket fight never dies.
all that to say, though, I do think that like the celebrity thing is interesting. I've never really thought about that specifically. I do think the incarnation does challenge our notions of value, but it has to do more with, I think, how easy it is for us to, and how easy it is for a lot of other churches, I will say, and a lot of other theological kind of perspectives to devalue the physical, the tangible, the human,
No doubt.
the body, even to the point of like not caring about what happens to people because it's about what happens after life.
This is great.
Yeah.
No, I think you're right on, because the incarnation like totally messes that up. And yet we see the continued devaluing of poor folks, people of color, people on the borders, trans folks, right? So
Specific genders,
yes. And that is exactly, I think, where I was going with the celebrity thing. We choose that, though. We choose as a society what we value.
yeah.
And Jesus's birth really doesn't give us a choice, because if God chooses to take on human form, become human, then all of human life has this intrinsic infinite value, because it is something that God became.
Yeah, I mean, I think Jesus brings and affirms being human. And so there's something about being human that, and even I would say beyond being human, just kind of living and being a part of creation as a whole. There's something powerful about the physical, the tangible, the engaged, connected presence, the being with people and in creation that has value. And it also reminds us, I think, so not only is being human affirmed, but all of creation then is affirmed.
Correct.
And therefore, it's simply being human that has value. It's something being that has value. I mean, being has value. So whether that's a human being or created being of some other kind, I mean, there's value in being. And I think that's really important, because I think, again, it's easy for us to take for granted who we are and what we have. And it's easy for us to see the negative or the difficulty or the
limitation,
the imperfection, the limitation, and not to remember that truly being is so amazing and like such a miracle and like such a blessing and such, this gift that we have, which again links to grace that we didn't earn or deserve or achieve. We just are. I mean, there's power then in stopping and really thinking about the fact that we are breathing and we're alive, and like, what does that actually mean? And that we can have a conversation with each other and we can share things. I mean, there's something really powerful about that. The fact that God would become human, and not just kind of, again, in this isolated identity, but like in its full identity, which includes then connection and engagement and relationship and hunger and all the emotions and, I mean, friendship and grief. And I mean, Jesus, like as human, not just little baby Jesus, he probably did cry, even though I know we love the song Silent Night. But let's be honest, if Jesus was a baby, there's only certain ways that babies can communicate their needs. So I'm just saying, like, Jesus had all the baby things and then also had all the same stuff that we deal with as humans, as adults, whether we have beards or not. So I think there's something really powerful then in recognizing the incarnation and what it invites us to appreciate.
What do you think
the
incarnation then says about God?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a pretty clear indication that God is willing to do anything to be a part of our life. I think God choosing to take on this form, to become human, to experience all the struggle that is to be human, ultimately leading to death, I think it means that God will go to infinite lengths to be in relationship with creation.
Yeah.
Which comes
Yeah.
from like an an abundant amount of grace and love that God has for creation itself.
Yeah, and I also think that maybe it's God. I think that it's a reminder that even being human, we're not as limited as maybe we like to think we are.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because
we're not as broken.
Like there's
dirty,
like we
limited.
have so much more capacity for grace, for mercy, for like holiness, for kindness and goodness than I think sometimes we believe. And there's a lot of theology here that we can unpack around, human nature, which we actually talked about in our first season, and, all sorts of different things like that. And like, even I'm thinking of like, the movie Wicked is out, which have you seen it? It's so good.
I have not.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. But I'm thinking of that, even that question of like, are we born good or
go get
born
glicked
wicked?
soon,
Okay, good. I hope you enjoy
Is that what the kids say?
you enjoy that. I don't know. You mean Wicked and Gladiator?
Yeah.
Glicked?
Same week, same day.
Okay, well, enjoy that. I've already seen
I'm
Wicked
not gonna
twice,
do
and
that.
I have
What?
honestly no desire to see Gladiator 2. But that's okay.
What are we even doing here?
Well, we're talking about God real fast, so...
So
Wait,
go
I
on,
just
make
wanna
your
say though,
point.
because-
Wicked.
Yeah, this question of like, are
we
people
inherently
born
bad?
good or wicked? Like, there's all sorts of theology that we can unpack about that. Cleanliness. Oh my gosh! But this is what I'm saying. Like God, if you think of like the cleanliness laws that existed in this time, it always went one way. Basically, if something was unclean, it would make anything touched.
Everything else
Yes,
was unclean.
Exactly.
You had to isolate, disinfect. It was like early COVID days.
Yeah, I mean, really.
COVID was on something. It was unclean, and you had to make it clean, or it had to, like, individuals had to make themselves clean before they were able to re-enter the community. Right? Cleanliness laws were significant boundaries that were not.
And it really was rooted, I think, in health and human safety.
No doubt. It was
for sure.
It was in the
life.
flourishing of communities, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, but the whole idea with like cleanliness is it only went one way. Like something that if you had something that was clean and something unclean, the unclean thing always won, right? Like it always made the clean thing unclean.
Because one speck of being unclean, right? 1% of that would taint or essentially pervert whatever was clean.
Yes. So even something holy, which is like set apart and like super clean, right? You have like unclean, clean, and then like holy. But if something unclean came into the presence of something holy, then that holy thing would be desecrated. I mean, that's like the whole... It always went down. The uncleanliness always like pulled towards itself until Jesus, right? Until Jesus, because Jesus shows up and touches the leper. And that was like such a powerful example.
Exactly.
Like nobody touched a leper, because if you touched a leper, that was the height of uncleanliness, and that would make you unclean. And Jesus touches the leper.
Right.
And instead of becoming unclean, Jesus makes them clean.
Right.
Jesus heals them from their uncleanliness. And so it's like this concept, and even this notion of incarnation is like God becoming human, which then doesn't sink God to humanity, to this like low, like terrible level of humanity. It actually elevates humanity itself and says then being human is actually something that's holy, because God is human, and that makes being human something sacred in and of itself.
That is really good. And I think it is often lost on us in the midst of an Advent season. The true power, ongoing power, and possibility that exists with the birth of Christ. Because we are working to try to make everything perfect. And
it's easy to see the flaws that still exist.
Exactly.
No
because
doubt.
when you're stressing about everything being right, one little thing can totally throw it off.
Yep.
Whether that's Christmas dinner or gift giving or wrapping our paper, wrapping using
the wrong wrapping paper.
Using the wrong wrapping paper. I'm not very good at gift wrapping. We can get so fixated on needing everything to be right because we're worried about disappointing folks, or we're worried about what it says about us, that the whole season can just go that way, and we totally miss this opportunity to recognize that Jesus's birth elevates it all and provides extraordinary grace, so that we don't have to be concerned with getting everything right. We have to be concerned with knowing the one who is perfect, right? And that's such a culture shift for us during Christmas.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that just means, think about what that could mean for our kids and our friends and our family when we're not modeling the fact that they have to earn or become the best or, make it perfect, that we celebrate and love them just for who they are, just because they're there. Because they're ours, whether again, whatever that relationship is, like, I just love you as my friend because you're my friend and you're here. And like, that's it. What a gift that is. And so to take time to pause and remember that during this season, yes, we like to make things special and it is like this heightened time of celebration, but the simplicity and the glory and the beauty and the sacredness of absolute ordinary creation. There's something that is worth true celebration. And I think the Incarnation reminds us of that for sure.
Which leads us well into our next episode, because we're going to talk about hope, which really can only talk about hope if things are going poorly.
Yeah.
So,
because hope is about a reality not yet lived.
Exactly. Let's talk about it next week.
Okay, we will. We will for sure. Friends, we are so thankful that you have listened to Howdy Theologian today. We are a podcast for all who want to better understand Christian theology from a progressive perspective in our world. Mitchell and I are pastors at First United Methodist Church of Dallas, Texas. You can find us worshiping in person or online every Sunday morning. We invite you to follow our church on socials for more awesome content.
Smash that subscribe button.
And share with your friends. Have a great week.
I just want the real thing.